Hurricane Melissa is looking to take aim for Jamaica as potentially a high-end Category 4 to even low-end Category 5 hurricane at landfall. This is going to bring very high winds in excess of 180 miles an hour possibly. Along with that, we could see this storm produce torrential rainfall, potentially up to 40 inches of rainfall. Yes, you heard me right. Jamaica needs to be getting prepared. As you can tell here, this is Jamaica, and you may be thinking, oh, this is going to hit in like a few hours. Well, it is not true. This is a very slow moving system. We're still getting plenty of wind shear into this on our, I guess you could say, northwestern side of it. You can tell it is not really struggling elsewhere, but all this wind shear is kind of eating up the northwestern side. Right now, we are getting quite a few cloud tops, though, bubbling up here on our southwestern side. So we're definitely watching that. But this is eventually going to take aim for Jamaica over the next 48 hours. So we definitely need to be watching that closely. Here's a look at the latest cone. And first, I want to go over warnings. Some of Haiti is now under hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings for some places. I guess they're tropical storm warnings for now, actually, yeah. So tropical storm warnings are in effect now for parts of Haiti and parts of Jamaica. And hurricane watches are in effect for Jamaica and Haiti. So we're definitely going to have to watch this. I do expect to see our tropical storm and hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings extended into Cuba and eventually into the Bahamas. May even see some into Haiti. All of Haiti may actually be under a tropical storm warning within the next couple of hours. So we're watching that closely. As you can tell, we are looking to have major hurricane status at landfall on Jamaica. It is expected to weaken to a Category 2 hurricane after it passes by Cuba and heads into the Bahamas. Luckily, this should stay offshore of Florida and not bring any tropical storm force impacts to the United States. As you can tell here, this is the hurricane wind speed probabilities, and this is going to be tropical storm if it loads. Here it is. You can tell here it is staying just to the east of Florida, southeast. Now, this definitely could be brought up some if we do see just the slightest shift west. So I still want you guys to be staying prepared in the Florida Keys into extreme South Florida. But it is not looking like it is going to hit Florida with any type of impact. Now, impacts such as rip current are going to be felt, though, all along Florida. You can tell here, just most of Florida is in at least a low rip current risk. So we're definitely watching that closely. You can tell some areas we have in high and moderate. Other areas are in low. Others are no data, but definitely down here in the Florida Keys in South Florida, definitely I think are going to be experiencing some higher rip currents. So just make sure you watch that flag. If it is red, stay out of that water. Here's a look at where you can see Melissa potentially track. And there are still a few scenarios out here on the table. One of which is it really just shoots off to the northeast immediately here. And that is a very unlikely scenario at this point. The more likely is it goes up through Jamaica, up through Cuba, into the Bahamas. And a less likely one is it goes a bit further into western Cuba and may bring some minimal impacts to the Florida Keys. That is a unlikely scenario. So definitely the one at Jamaica is more likely. So we're still watching. Is there still the chance that we could see some of those other scenarios play out? But they're very unlikely at this point. You can tell hits Jamaica as a pretty strong hurricane and moves into the Bahamas after passing by Cuba and then just shoots to the northeast into the Atlantic and eventually takes a hard hit to the east and dies out. Behind this, we could see another system here in about a week form back here in the Atlantic, I guess you could say. This is actually to the west, so we're going to have to watch this closely. Could actually form up here in the Gulf, so we're going to have to watch that if it gets pushed far enough to the west, but honestly, the chances I think of that forming are very low. Here's the European models, what it's saying on this, and it is kind of a bit to the west and slower, but still should stay off the coast of Florida. And then that system kind of behind it that tries to develop it is really not picking up on it. So obviously that is a long ways out, that second system. And could this actually be our last hurricane of the season? Very well could be. Here's the GEFS ensemble members, and you can tell here there is still a few different scenarios that are at play. As you can tell, our scenarios are likely going to be a track somewhere in this vicinity, and honestly, I would say it's more in this vicinity, not even this like one model that is showing it west. So honestly, our models are really agreeing right now. You can tell that signal for our next system is very low right now, so it is nothing that we need to be worried about. Here are the latest spaghetti models. We do have this singular model that does take it near Florida, but apart from that, we really just don't need to be worried here about any tropical storm or hurricane impacts in the United States. We need to be watching our friends back here in Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, and the Bahamas. Here's the model intensity guidance. Category 4 hurricane is actually looking a bit more likely right now, with multiple models showing it, potentially upwards to Cat 5. You can tell all of our models are a tropical storm, as it is a tropical storm, and a lot of them do show this actually going up to Cat 3 to even Cat 4 intensity before finally dropping off later after it passes by the Bahamas. So we're going to have to watch it, and I will continue to provide you with updates. Now, tomorrow I do have cross country for state, so we will likely only have a video in the afternoon and not in the morning. But there is the chance that we actually do go live for severe weather tonight and even tomorrow. So, actually, tomorrow is a likely live stream. While I'm gone, it'll just be a radar. And if we need to come on whenever I'm back, we definitely could. Here's a look at all the rain that this could dump. You can tell here, lots and lots here in Jamaica. So we just need to be paying attention. I will be updating you with the latest as often as I can. Here are the current National Weather Service hazards. I'm going to reload so we get the latest hazards. You can tell here we do have a severe thunderstorm warning out here in the Texas Panhandle near Amarillo. Flood watches in effect for a pretty large area of Texas and Oklahoma. It does extend into one county in Louisiana. Do have some freeze warnings in effect in Ohio, Indiana, into portions of Pennsylvania. And we have some over here in Virginia, West Virginia, surrounding areas. Just few counties scattered around. And then we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for portions of Texas. This does include the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And severe thunderstorm warnings in here. And we did actually have a tornado warning just to the west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area about half an hour ago. And we are on standby right now for a live stream. If something were to bubble up that does look like it needs to be gone live for, we will definitely be here on the channel for it. And this is the severe weather side of things for today. Our risk is really dying down now. Our risk is mainly going to be back here. And then as we head over here towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I do expect our slight risk to get expanded a bit further to the east. But for now, we have a pretty large slight risk of severe weather in play with a pretty large marginal risk surrounding it. Marginal risk might be dropped off to the south as storms are really struggling back there in Oklahoma as they head towards Oklahoma City. Although we do have a 2% tornado risk, very large, and then a pretty large 5% tornado risk too. And that 5% has it's underplayed today, and that is a good thing though. Do have a 15% wind and a 15% hatch tail risk that is pretty much done. It is mainly going to be focused in this corridor for now, but overall just low threat for really anything substantial tonight. Moving on to tomorrow, we do have a large marginal risk back here in the Pacific Northwest, large marginal risk back here in the Southern Plains into Dixie Alley, and a very large slight risk as well. And tomorrow could be another big day. 2% tornado risk back here in Oregon, western Oregon. Then a pretty large 2% tornado risk extending from portions of Mississippi back into Texas. And a 5% tornado risk along the Gulf of Texas and Louisiana, pardon me, tomorrow. And honestly, tomorrow does look like it could be a big day back here in this area if storms do fire properly. So we're watching that closely. Honestly, a 10% tornado risk is not out of the question for tomorrow if models continue to pick up on what they're showing right now. We do have a 5% wind risk and 15% wind risk, pardon me, and 15% hail back here in Texas for when storms initially do fire. Day 3 outlook, we have another marginal risk of severe weather. Now, slight risk in this area is not out of the question yet, so we're going to watch that, and we will likely have daily updates as we head throughout this week. So just make sure you are keeping it here, and I will be keeping you posted. And here we are, and this is pretty much a current look at what storms are looking like. You can tell very large area right now. And as we head throughout the night, we're going to see it really get pretty messy back here in central and southern Texas. Along the border, we could see some supercells that continue to fire. The main show is going to be back here near the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then just flooding rainfalls up here in Oklahoma. As you can tell, we're actually going to get a pretty intense line of storms. And I want to show you another model here in a moment, but we are going to be watching that damaging wind and large hail threat, brief tornado risk as we move throughout the rest of tonight into tomorrow. And then tomorrow is going to be a big story too. But first I want to show you this mesoscale discussion. We do have a locally higher tornado threat here in North Texas right now along the warm frontal boundary with these supercells that are currently in that area. We do actually have severe thunderstorm warnings right now in that area with tornado possible tags, so we're definitely going to be watching those. Although I do think the tornado threat is rapidly diminishing as we go throughout the night. Now, as we move on to tomorrow, first I want to show you what the RRFSA is showing for tonight. They're just showing a pretty intense line of storms that is going to be moving through. And where that slight risk is, like across this area, I do think we are going to end up keeping it, but I do think it is a pretty hit or miss area back there in central Texas tonight. As we head into tomorrow, we're going to see those storms end up pushing into Louisiana. If those clear out in time, we definitely could have a big day tomorrow. And back in central Texas, I do think a big day is definitely at play. Large hail, tornadoes, and some damaging winds are going to be possible. And then you can tell back here in Louisiana, we do see quite a couple, I should say, not quite a few, but we do see a couple supercells fire off. And this is why I think we could have a bit more of an elevated tornado risk tomorrow back there in Louisiana. So we're definitely going to be watching that very closely. And honestly, back here in Oklahoma, I would not be surprised if we got a brief tornado risk to develop due to the spin that we are going to have kind of pulling storms like this. Any storm that could get intense like that definitely could wrap up for a brief moment and pose a tornado risk. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. Like I said, we will likely be live on this channel tomorrow. And after I get back from state across the country, we will potentially be talking if it is necessary. In Texas and Louisiana, severe threats tomorrow afternoon/evening. Tornado risk is at a 5. Wind gusts are at a 5. Hail is at a 5. And flooding is at a 2. The tornado risk is a localized strong risk in play. I do think we definitely could see a strong tornado tomorrow out of a supercell that is able to stay discreet. And moving on to tomorrow back here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, the reason we have a tornado risk tomorrow is our atmospheric river event that is going to be pushing storms onshore. We're going to have just enough spin in the atmosphere here along the coast that could wrap up and bring us a brief tornado. So we're definitely going to be watching that one closely as well. So just make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts and just know where to go if and when a warning is issued. And as we head throughout the rest of October into the first week of November, honestly, it does look like it may get a bit quieter. As you can tell here, our jet stream doesn't look too intense. We definitely could get a system out of here that could pose a severe risk back in Dixie Alley and in the southeast. But overall, the severe threats do look to be staying pretty minimal as we head throughout the rest of October into the first week of November, which is a good thing. And Radar would agree with me on that. As you can tell here, really just no systems in the United States as we head throughout the rest of the month into the first month, or to the first week, pardon me, of November. So that is a good thing. Although I do want to say GFS is picking up on a pretty large snowstorm potentially as we head into that first week of November. Keep in mind this is 2 weeks out, so take it with a grain of salt, but just something that we will definitely want to be watching closely as we head throughout the rest of this month into the first, I guess, week of next month. And we do have a potential storm developing here back in the western Atlantic, or eastern Atlantic, pardon me. But as you can tell here, this is just going to be a potential just tropical storm. And this is the Pacific, pardon me again. So this is the Eastern Pacific. This is pretty far off the coast of Mexico. We are looking to see a tropical storm out of it, but it does not pose any risk to land. So, and it is not even a named storm yet. It's Tropical Depression 18E. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it, but overall, just a very low-end storm that is not going to hold itself together very long. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys did enjoy today's video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing, as it would be much appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.